CNBC-TV18 and NuSummit present the BFSI 2025 Vision Summit.
If there is any company that is able to, 100, at least 1 million trades a minute now and scaling up to 100 million trades. Let me start over there, Ganesh. I'll refer to Anantharaman Srinivasan as Ganesh because he's better known to us that way. Ganesh, is it possible that you all can write a code for someone with a fat finger problem? Is that service also offered?
No, I think, as Mr. Ashish said, I think one of the things about India, which we have been very fortunate is that, and this is not just now, this is something that dawned on me even way back during my IBM days, in that the sheer volumetrics of the country, right? When you think of, we already heard the NSE volumes. I remember State Bank of India, and I'm talking about 7-8 years back, when the integration happened and all the subsidiaries came together. At one point in time, the footprint of the customers was 450 million plus customers. And, I remember some of my friends, kind of dabbling and saying, if we want to bring IBM Watson to kind of get it to scale in an environment like this, how do you ever get about it, right? There is so much of contextualization that needs to be done. There is so much of localization that needs to be done, and volumes, of course, right? So I think the truth of the matter is that not many, even in the developed markets, are able to fathom the volumes that we have and the way that we are able to kind of operate in that scale and fashion. And I think for one, we have been fortunate to be part of that legacy, in that our journey has been part of this very high throughput, low latency kind of an environment that sets us up well for all of what is the core fabric for financial services institutions, if you may.
Not too many IT companies can handle volume, and only an NSE subsidiary can bring the ability to handle so much of transactions. But today we have with us professionals who don't just want people who can transact, but who have to stay with them, which requires perhaps much more deeper, intense technology. And that's what we are going to discuss. So let me start first with the insurance guys. Since banking is a favorite, let me not play favorite over here. Okay, Kamlesh, to start with you. In the insurance company, are you all now able to reach out to the customer only through a chatbot? Has your customer reached that level of trusting you?
Thanks, Lata, for that question. Starting with insurance, I tell you, all of us hopefully define our roles as CEOs of technology company that, by the way, delivers either banking or insurance as their products, because the world has changed. Bots, I tell you, there's a bot in our company called Zara. She does 10% of our renewal premium collections, essentially because data suggests that there are 14% of our customer bases that don't like to speak to human beings, because their worry is at the end of the call, they will end up doing an upsell or a cross-sell. So if you want to ensure you segment your customers well in bots today, we've reached that stage where 10% of the entire renewal premium collection happens by a bot.
You have already reached that stage.
We've already reached that stage. There are a lot of AI experts here, and we also learn AI the hard way these days. But the contra is, when we get calls, we put AI, which we call in terms of a voice assist, which can answer queries faster. AI, the age-old AI is Alexa. I keep saying that's the only person that listens to you these days, because she does whatever you tell her. But it couldn't catch sentiment analysis of people when they are calling. When you're responding, you also need to get the element of sentiment, and hopefully GenAI is moving in that direction. And we, at this point of time, are working on a bot on voice assist, which tells you when can the bot answer and when should that handover happen to a human being, because the bot may not understand the sentiment well. So yeah, we've reached that stage already in insurance.
Okay, that's good to hear. Actually, that gives me the clue really to ask all of you, what is the best place that you all have already employed, GenAI or AI itself, or simply what is your best technological offering for your customers? I think at Canara, HSBC, you all have an Omni-Gen AI, which helps due diligence. Can you tell us something about that?
First of all, Lata, I would like to clarify. You said that there are 3 insurance companies, CEO sitting here. We are no longer an insurance company. I think we are insurtech. So nothing moves without technology. I'm very, very honest. In fact, I come from finance background, but when I got into this space, I realized that it's all technology. Whether it is onboarding the customer, whether the entire life cycle of the customer, I think technology is playing a very important role. And we have actually recently gone for this Omni Gen AI, which we have deployed on the underwriting side. Because what we realized in an insurance company, underwriting is a very core activity where you judge the customer whether insurable or not. And when we realize that when we are using people, and obviously there's no substitute for people, but then there are certain areas where you want to be accurate, where you want a little bit more precision rather than just someone's memory or someone's way of working. And we have deployed this, which is on AWS platform. And what we have seen is that the technology is giving better outcomes. So we are doing a co-pilot, and almost we have seen 70 to 80% kind of success rate, where the system is able to kind of memorize all the rules, everything, algorithms, all of that is there in the system, and it gives an output which is then validated by medical underwriters. So something very useful we have found where we have deployed GenAI. In fact, I was hearing about GenAI for last many years, and when I used to ask about the use cases, very few use cases, but we actually looked at this tool and we have deployed it, and we are really benefiting out of it. Particularly times when suddenly there's spike in volumes. Insurance is cyclical business. We see huge upsurge in March and other quarters. And we have seen that something like this, you have lesser dependence on people, and technology provides a more stable solution. Not to say that people are not required. People are still required. But in a way, the outcome which you get is far more superior. So this is something which we have done and we benefit out of it.
So it's more helping your staff to come to better conclusions.
To start with. Once we reach almost 90-95% accuracy, then except for very, very complex medical underwriting, I think the machines can do.
Okay. Well, so from life, let me move to general insurance. Anuj, Tyagi, is it easier to convince and trust customers in a general insurance company with the help of chatbots or any other kind of technological tools? In a life insurance company, you handhold the customer for a longish bit, and therefore you genuinely need to have a human interface, and there is an emotional touch involved. General insurance tends to be more transactional. So is it that you all use technology more pervasively to reach out to customers and to continue your transactions?
Yeah. So thank you, Lada. I think you answered the question in some for yourself, because the fact that general insurance is a high transaction industry, compared to life. I mean, in motor, our claims frequency is upwards of 25%. In health, our claims frequency is upwards of 10%, right? So you can imagine the kind of transaction load that comes on insurance companies, and it's an anniversary product. So now there are two parts. Let me break this question into two parts. As far as products like motor is concerned, it's very easy to use new age technology, and it's very transactional. Customer, I don't need to convince customer. The relationship is not that very long from a customer's point of view. I would want to retain that customer till eternity, but customer's point of view, it's a, for lack of better word, and purists will kill me, it's a commodity from customer's point of view, right? He or she would look at the best quote next year and will shift.
I'm going from my point of view. I wouldn't think too much about general insurance product. I would think about a life insurance.
For motor. But let me bring in the general insurance product called health. Then the moment you bring in health, you would think, and if you don't, then you should start thinking, by the way. So health is where the commoditization of product goes down drastically. Health kind of borders in its nature with life. And there, the usage of technology is relatively, it requires a lot of efforts to convince the customer only to do a transaction end-to-end using technology as possibly you would do it in motor. Now, let me give you an example. Motor has a very unique peculiarity called break-in surveys. If you forget to renew your car, the insurance company will tell you that we want to do a break-in survey, right? Now, earlier it used to be a very rudimentary, cumbersome process. Survey will go, he or she will survey the car. By the way, we have female surveyors also in the organization. Okay. That's why I use the word she. So they will survey the car and they will give you the decision, and typical process was a couple of days. We started using artificial intelligence. 94% of my motor surveys today are done by artificial intelligence.
And how many are contested?
How many?
Are contested.
No. So these are, I don't need to contest. So I do a survey.
No,
In this
what
case,
I'm
the
asking
decision
is
in
there a
mind.
difference between a human evaluation and
So my success rate is upwards of 90%. I take decision based on this, Lata, today. So I don't do any pre-inspection survey, break-in survey using human beings today. You have a stencil in your phone, you go and click the photographs and the videos, and in 5 minutes you will get your decision. What is the premium? I want to insure your car or not? Go. The process is completed. When it comes to health insurance, it is still not as seamless as that. I still can't use technology end-to-end and pay health claims purely based on technology. But what we did was, because we have data and we are one of the largest health insurance companies today in the country, so we have huge data with us. So we started creating cohorts. And for these, we said, let's start with select cohorts of customers and products and see, can we create the journey end to end? We have a product, and I know it might sound like propaganda now, but it's a product called Optima Secure, which is my flagship product in health insurance. This product was only launched on WhatsApp. There was no other journey. The product was launched on WhatsApp. My channel will use WhatsApp bot to create a pitch for you, to send you the product features, to send you the code, to send you the payment link, and the journey is completed. And I sell this product.
End-to-end journey.
End-to-end journey. And I sell this product in thousands of crores of premium. By the way, I'm not talking of a few transactions. I do premium worth thousands of crores on this product. So it's picking up slowly and slowly. And as and when you, so it's all about data. It's all about how strong is your pitch to the customer. And the lower the error rate in your proposition to the customer, in your communication with the customer, better is the pickup rate. And I think, in my opinion, we've cracked the code. So I can say we do it with great confidence now.
Fascinating. And now let me come to the favorite topic for me. Yes Bank had the advantage that you didn't have to battle legacy. And I'm going to come back to Ganesh to ask whether he has a technology that can battle legacy systems, because I think you're the senior most in terms of the number of years of technology from 1999, as it were. But Ajay, since you are kind of digital born, not a digital migrant, you tell us, if you look into the future, what is the next big thing that is going to transform banking, technologically speaking?
Thanks, Lata. And, like you addressed NSE as, the startup and the, biggest fintech. So Yes Bank, incidentally, also is the only startup greenfield bank in the country which has, grown to this size. So, and you very rightly mentioned that we did not have any digital baggage. So hence, as a strategy, when we had to decide how do we grow and how do we compete with the big boys of banking, I think the decision was very clear. We had to be digital native. We had to be technology first. And as a bank, we identified a strategy of partnership and collaboration. So with that context, if you actually look at the journey of the bank, whatever we do, we do think digital, we do think technology. We built our infrastructure for scale. And, with the DPI started, coming into India, like the payment layer and other layers, that is where Yes Bank did the partnership approach with the likes of PhonePe and others. And the result is there to see today, we process 1 out of 3 digital payment transactions in the country is processed by Yes Bank. So that's the scale at which we operate now. And it is not only a UPI story, and Ashish sir did mention about this as well. We have grown exponentially in all the payment modes. So today we would have market leadership in whether it's an NEFT, RTGS, NACH, AEPS. And the reason why we've been able to build this superiority is because all of these are solution-based mandates or volumes that we are gaining, right? So for example, if insurance is growing or mutual funds are growing, those SIPs are growing, and that is where NACH as a, we bundled NACH as a solution and implemented with, with players, which has grown that volume. So the inward remittance, for example, in India, which is growing, so we bundled our API side. So we pioneered corporatization of API in India. And that was when people, the only API that people resonated was the pharma APIs, right? So we brought in APIs in banking, and that is what we deployed and made sure that not only the corporate side, which is, we interacting with our customers, but also the same APIs were exposed to the fintechs. And that actually led to the fintech revolution in the country. So that has been, the legacy of what Yes Bank has done in the digital world. I would like to believe that from a future perspective, next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, DPI is going to be very, very critical. And how banks leverage DPI, integrate with the DPIs is going to be very, very, very crucial, right? So ULI, for example, which has been launched, I believe that, see, there are some banks who are very good on digital, but there are a lot of banks who are behind on digital. So the purpose of a system like ULI, which is touted to be the UPI of lending, is to bring all the players on the same platform, give them access to the same level of information, and then, of course, they have to build their own capabilities to leverage that. And that is really what something like a ULI will bring to the table. And I think, more banks which come onto that kind of platforms will really shape the way banking happens in the future. And that's what I think would be.
Out of sheer habit, I will have more questions on banking since we encounter them very often. But just because, Anuj raised that issue, will you all reach a level where you won't need branches or fewer branches?
No branches, I don't think any bank will ever, or financial institution will ever reach that level. Yeah. Yes, of course, I am coming to that. So branches are very critical, Lata, and the reason being that when it comes to financial service, people, while research shows that 70% people are willing to buy digitally, but only 23% end up consuming digitally. So people still, when it comes to managing money, they still prefer to have that interaction, maybe to gain that trust, or to convince themselves that this is the right thing to do. So it is, the way branches work has changed. So it is no longer that we go to the branches. I don't think many people would have even gone to the branches for years now. But there is always that person that you maybe connect or speak or whatever. So yes, the digital is very all-pervasive, but I believe that branches still play a role from a physical touch point, or the trust factor which is there. The one thing which has, however, changed about the way people look at branches or banks look at branches, and which is the reason I say that it will not get eliminated, but it will be grown on a need-be basis, is that branches have become phygital. So there is, yes, a physical element, but more importantly, the digital at the back, so front to back digital is leveraged to make sure that the data or the hyper-personalization of the customer is done, and you are going to the customer with a very pointed, targeted product or solution, rather than going and discussing 10 different things. So that approach of branches is really changing. So they're more targeted in terms of what they need to do.
So you perhaps need physically a smaller space, but digitally very well.
Absolutely correct.
No, I would imagine that if an institution like insurance companies are actually giving a promise of future service, and the initial amount that you're taking from the customer is relatively less, whereas a bank is actually taking a loan from the depositor, and therefore a physical presence perhaps will always be called for. And that's the point I want to ask you, Ganesh. Where are the resistances that you get? Are there problems of legacy technology which has to be, completely discarded or partially discarded by introducing? Or do you get resistance from customers not willing to go all the way, and therefore you have to have a part explanation? What are the typical problems that you, as not a fintech but a tech fin, as I was told is the new word, as a tech fin, what are the issues that finance companies ask you to solve?
Sure. No, thanks, Lata. And, the way I see it, it's a slew of aspects, right? And you need to look at the context, you need to look at the use case, you need to look at the business outcome that you're trying to drive at. Now, if you think of cloud adoption for one, and let's talk about banks, insurance companies, and all of that, right? If you think of all the workloads that have moved to cloud, you would still not, or at least by and large, you would not find the core banking workloads moving to a cloud. You would not have the core policy workloads moving to a cloud. You would not have the core exchange moving to a cloud, right? You will have the tertiary enterprise applications moving to cloud. So this is driven by various reasons, right? One is the need for having absolute control on what is so sensitive for you.
Well, I might tell you that I have had panels moderated where bankers seriously resisted the crowd because they were scared that Reserve Bank will pull them up. So there was that resistance.
Absolutely. And the point is, I think, while the purist from a technology standpoint might come about and say that the security is as good as it gets when it comes to the cloud, the point is it's not easy all the same for the business to transition. That's the reality of life.
That's one of the first things you'll encounter.
That's a very big imperative. And I'm just talking about one technology, for instance. We all understand that cloud is a great thing to adopt when it comes to scalability, when it comes to resilience, agility, all of that. The second important thing is we saw a wave where many clients jumped onto the cloud bandwagon simply because you couldn't have access during a COVID period. But the real truth is that the bang for the buck comes from the refactoring of the applications when it is able to leverage cloud as a medium, right? So you have now a wave which is playing out very clearly where everybody has understood that just getting onto a cloud is not good enough, but you need to modernize your entire app stack or whatever it is, or your data stack to extract value from it. Now, if you think of GenAI as an area, I think, and I think the panelists have shared a lot of successful stories around GenAI. But again, GenAI is, the applicability spectrum is from a front-end system where your customer interactions happen all the way to your back-office operations. Now, there are some use cases which are fundamentally very much at home when it comes to adoption of AI. So for instance, repetitive tasks, back-office operations, things which are virtual assistants. These are the classic use cases that are going to be a tick when it comes to GenAI. But there could be some other use cases where you will need to deliberate further whether you are actually going to get the right outcomes. So I think it is not so much about technology, in my opinion. It is about the use case and the business outcome that you're trying to drive at, which determines whether it's acceptable or not.
Yeah, you have to be outcome driven. I can imagine that. Okay, we are being warned that we don't have too much time. But Anuj, I wanted to ask you this. Since you have a foreign partner, how does India compare? Is it that you give lessons or do you take lessons from your partner?
See, India is Chinese. And I think when it comes to foreign promoter, I think they are also looking at India. And in fact, they're also learning many things from India. So I think it's two-way exchange. I'll not say that we only learn from them, but I think they are also looking at India. And some of the things
I thought in fact that you all will be offering them a lot of things which...
yeah, I'm coming to that. So actually, some of the use cases which we have experimented, we have implemented, now they are also kind of thinking of implementing those. So I think India has taken lead in some of these things. And it's working very well. We have been able to demonstrate that with huge volumes, these things are working. So I think for us, it's actually good adoption of technology. And even on cloud adoption, we were early adopters and we have seen real benefits of that. And except for the core policy administration system, everything is on cloud and it provides you that scalability where you can actually scale up your businesses. And also, it's a very good BCP strategy. So these are, I think, some of the things which we have done in India. And now those things are being replicated.
Okay. Kamlesh, I just want to ask you, what is the next big thing you are preparing for in terms of technology adoption?
I think the big focus is on the extent of hyper-personalization that you can do. India is a country with 140 crore population, penetration is still, we want application forms to be read differently by different sets of people. We want to make sure the policy document is different for different sets of people in the sense that it preserves the regulatory framework that is required, but incorporates the ease of being able to understand.
So it's different for a 55-year-old to a 45-year-old for a 35-year-old. I mean, I'm telling you because a person who is today 55 has probably come in before internet became available to all of us. Probably started working in the year 1990. At that time, maybe internet was not available. It becomes available to everyone only by maybe 93 or 94. So how is your
So
hyper-personalized.
I think the 55-year-old today is as much on Swiggy as perhaps the 25-year-old guy or on Book My Show. So to that extent, digital literacy driven by non-financial people have helped the financial services for sure without fail. But smaller elements, for example, insurance, you know about this topic to say, is the sale difficult? Does the guy understand what is being sold to him? So today what we do is, we don't do any telephonic conversation. The guy records what he has bought. And when he records what he has bought, we read the facial expressions of the guy to understand at the back end whether he's understood the policy that he's bought or no, which means there is efficiency of sale. If I have to sell to Lata tomorrow, and if you are my banking partner and there's so much of data that bankers have, I can tell you based on our data model, what is the right product that you should buy, not what is the product that I should sell to you. And we run today models where 30-35% of our business comes on this, and it has a zero complaint ratio, because we have ended up selling what you wanted and not what I wanted in the first place. But all these models, of AI require very, very solid data at the back end, and you need to keep learning. It's a great process. Fortunately, machines learn much better than human beings do. So I think from that point of view, there is reasonable progress in that area. And use cases are most important. Today we have a AI-powered role play tool available where the sales guy can actually preempt, if he's making a pitch to a customer, what will be the possible objections that will come from the client. And if you are able to feed the risk profile into the AI tool well, depending on the risk profile, the questions will be different. So when he goes out to the real world, he is much better prepared to actually make the sale. So the use cases are just going up by reasonable scale every period of time.
Every time I speak to finance professionals, I get carried away. But if machines are smarter than human beings, and if they learn faster, Ajay, why are there unsecured loans is a problem? We should have detected them, no?
No comments. No, see, credit, I would say while, banks or lenders have used AI, on credit, but I don't think any lender, at least the banks, rely solely on AI. Lending is still, it's critical, right? You're putting money out. So, and it is fiduciary money. I think we have to also respect that we are playing with others' money, depositors' money. So we cannot just close our eyes and lend to just based on a machine algorithm and doing it. Yes, it does solve a lot of things. It creates efficiencies in the process. So I am able to use, and see, there is so much data right now, payments data, insurance data, so much of data is there. So it creates buckets of the data, it packages it. I am able to see the patterns, I am able to personalize it, but there will still always be a leg where we will try to make some sense of who we are lending to, and then do that. So I think lending, it will still take some time, for AI to fully take over, lending.
I'm just tempted to add, because I've seen the 2008 crisis as a banker. The scale of the problem when the unsecured problem happens today versus what happened in 2008, technology and AI has contributed to make sure that the impact is significantly lesser. And I think the other point is the lenders have access to AI. I think the borrowers also have access to AI.
Okay. No, fair enough. Ganesh, I wanted to ask you, DPDP Act, we are being told that we are out of time. But I just wanted to know, do you think that will be the next big thing that will have to be serviced? How prepared is Indian industry, at least the fintech space? Because it's going to hit fintech maximum. You guys are the repositories of maximum data. And a steel company or a motor company are not going to get DPDP as a very big problem. But how prepared is India, and how prepared is the tech sector?
Two thoughts out there. One is, I think there is a lot of realization, and people are very conscious about cybersecurity as an area. And I think over the years, on the back of, obviously we have seen a spate of events that have played out, the number of attacks have gone up, the threat landscape has widened, the frequency, the maturity, all of this has evolved. And so I think on the back of sheer hard experiences, I think it is fair to say that most enterprises and most SMEs as well, not just the big enterprises, I think most companies have realized the importance, because I remember a friend of mine saying that if there is anything of value that is there in your enterprise, you are a potential target, effectively, right? So it's as omnipresent as that. So I think there is no getting away from that. And I think there is a lot of, so there are layers of adoption when it comes to cybersecurity. There are some very basic hygiene elements that need to be embraced. It does not always equate to a very high cost of ownership or anything. It's more the basic discipline and the hygiene that needs to be incubated within the organizations in the way they go about it. And unfortunately, what happens is you might have the best technology, but the practices and the processes are still not evolved to kind of make good of that. So I think, coming back to a single line, I think, yes, Indian enterprises and the industry at large is very conscious of it. And I think it's a big area which will see a lot of investments play out in the future.
Okay. Well, I don't want to end on the negative note of what are the threats that we face because of DPDP. Let me end on something positive. Would you want to give us one big example where you think technology is going to solve your problem? The next big thing that you're waiting to see, like I asked Kamlesh.
More than a problem, it's my wish actually. And I will, for a moment, I'll stay away from transaction. You know, I really want to come back to the point where you said you don't think much about insurance or buying insurance or changing insurance. And I think this is where we as insurance companies, and especially general insurance companies, have missed the plot, because we have huge data of the customers, right? I know when you travel, when you buy a travel insurance policy, when somebody's flight get delayed, when somebody loses a baggage, I have all the data of the customers who are going to the hospitals, using the cars. I've never used that data actually to come back and interact with you. I haven't become a part of your life cycle, right? It pierces me 1,000 needles when somebody says insurance is a very transactional industry. No, it is not. You know, I can tell you next time when you travel, when you want to travel to these exotic locations, I'll tell you when is the best time to travel. Avoid this LA because the chances are somebody can get mugged. Avoid this airline because there's a high probability of somebody will lose the baggage. I can tell the users today which hospital in Bombay has the best cardiac surgeon. I can tell what is the likely cost of a cardiac surgery in this hospital, ABC. I can interact with you on a daily basis, right? I don't do this because A, people haven't started using this data, one. B, we still haven't developed those technology tools. And I think that's where the technology will solve this, will fulfill my wish. And we've done it in 30 more seconds. So what we've done, a year and a half back, we launched India's first ecosystem by an insurance company called HERE, H-E-R-E. Started something which is straight from the heart. Can you imagine today, more than 65 lakh people are using HERE and they're not using it to buy insurance. You go to HERE, you download it, and I challenge if in 30 seconds you can tell me where is the buy button. It doesn't talk to you on insurance. It talks to you on everything else, right? So I think that's where my wish is technology will come and solve a lot of issues for me as an insurer. When next time you don't say that it's a very transactional industry.
No, I won't. And also because now you have the license to start anything. Okay, any insurance product, life, everything. So there you are. I didn't mean to. I just thought that compared to life, perhaps people buy general insurance a little faster. But I take your point that the vistas of opportunities that you spoke about is a great way to end this conversation. I'm being warned that the more important conversation is also coming up, which is on cybersecurity. So thank you very much, both the Anoops, Kamlesh, Ajay and Ganesh, for an extremely interesting conversation that whets your appetite to know more and to see how technology will evolve from here on. Thank you very much.
CNBC-TV18 and NuSummit present the BFSI 2025 Vision Summit.